4 or 5 guys go down. So I mean, every time you're doing it, you're shifting gears. And you know, Terry's deal was so front end loaded for incentives and working and everything else that at that point for him to take over as a commissioner, as an evil commissioner, would have been storyline wise would have been great, but monetary wise it didn't work for Terry because Terry's deal was so loaded with incentives for pay-per-views and so on and so forth. So I mean, they had basically painted Terry into such a corner where all he could do was work, and you know, there was a lot of things that went on there, and it's just, you know, I'm not saying that I'm not without guilt. I mean, I was definitely at the grassy knoll with one of the rifles. I just wasn't the lone fucking gunman. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sure the statute's run on that one. Now, well, which takes us to the fateful April 10th, 2000, Denver, Colorado, when Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff together reinvented Nitro.
Right.
And from there, after a pretty hot start with the New Blood and the Millionaires Club and whatnot, things really started to go south. And you were there for that too. Tell us what it was like. You were there at the beginning of when we started to get hot. You rode the crest, and then you were there when we started to hit that downhill slide.
Yeah. What happened, number one, they took Eric out and they put some accountant in, whatever the hell that guy's name.
Bill Bush.
Bill Bush. Yeah. Nice guy.
Yes.
You know. But I mean, you know, he had the charisma of a plastic plant.
Not in danger of being an on-air talent.
No.
But again, Kev, when things started to go south, what was it like? I mean, it's easy to enjoy life backstage when we're hot, but when
it was like being in the business in 1989 and 90 when you went to the Philadelphia Civic Center, and it was like doing stand-up at a cruise ship. It was like fucking brutal. I mean, there was nothing but smart people in the crowd, and you could feel that it was over. I mean, the run was over, but you know, every good thing comes to an end. You know?
What would you have done differently? I mean, you weren't in a position of power at that point. Here's the magic power, what would you have done differently than what happened there?
Put the belt on me. No.
That's your answer for everything.
Fuck yeah, man. Put the strap on me and give me and Scott a raise.
Was there anything that could have been done?
You know what? And I hate to make my second reference to President Kennedy's assassination, but you know, at that point, it's just like, you know, you're going to go around and do a blood drive for the guy with his top of his head blown off, or you're just going to fucking make him comfortable and let him fucking, you know.
It was inevitable.
Yeah, it was. To me, when you lose the backing from the company.
Yes.
When I sat there and talked to Brad Siegel, and they had some, you know, some feel-good movie that they had spent $45 million to make. And, you know, they all felt good about it so they could jerk each other off at the Cable Ace Awards that year. And I sat there at a table with him in Denver, and I said, you guys spent $40 or $45 million for a show that you'll play how many times a quarter? And he said, probably 3 times a quarter. I said, and you'll be happy if it does what? He said, we'll be happy if it does it 2. I said, so inevitably, you're going to get, if you're playing it 3 or 4 times a quarter, I said, you know, you're going to play this thing 16 times a year, and you're going to be happy if you get a 2. We were still doing 3 3s, 3 5s to 4s then for 3 hours of original programming for less than the cost of that. So are you in the business of actually doing programming? Then you say to yourself, oh, wait, this is TBS. This is the same channel that runs Dirty Dancing for fucking 24 hours like you're going to watch it 16 times. You know, I mean, this you're talking to these people. Then they go, gee, I wonder why Time Warner stock went from $112 to $6. Mm-hmm. Gee, I don't know, maybe because you had a bunch of idiots running the company.
You won't get an argument from me there.
I mean, so, you know, it's one of those deals where, you know, people say, what happened to WCW? Fuck what happened to WCW. What happened to AOL Time Warner?
Amen.
I mean, the company fucking imploded. Why would one subsidiary be able to survive that?
2001, last 3 months of the company, January, February, and March. You didn't come back for the last show.
No.
Were you asked?
I was asked, but I think the only girl that I hadn't slept with at that point was Stacy Keibler, and I knew she'd be there. No.
Once again.
I was kidding. That was a joke.
But things came to It all came to a head there on March 27th in Panama City Beach. Goldberg wasn't there. You weren't there. It was anticlimactic.
Well, I couldn't actually be there contractually because I still had 11 and a half months on my Turner deal.
Right. Okay. There you go.
So I wasn't going to work for the opposition, nor was I going to give back any money. So I figured by not going there, they would know exactly where I stood. Because a lot of guys took buyouts.
You stayed home.
Yeah, I did. You know what? That was the year that I said to myself, I remember my wife coming over. My wife and I worked through all of a lot of our marital problems, and we were separated for a while and became unseparated. Decided we would try to make it work. And she came over. I was staying in the loft down in Buckhead, and she came in. I was just kicked back, drinking a beer at about 11 o'clock in the morning. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've reached my goal in life." She said, "What's that?" I said, "I'm fucking getting paid to watch television."
Nice.
I said, and I'm going to for the next 11 and a half months. So it's a good time.
At some point here.
Best year I ever had.
Sounds good to me.
Work rate was incredible. No duds.
Never looked better.
Oh, never looked better.
Vince had the idea to bring in you and Scott and Hulk as the NWO into the WWE. Right. How was that initial conversation?
Well, they said, that they had polled the locker room, and that the poll was 99.9% of them wanted to fucking put us to death, and Hunter and Shawn Michaels wanted us to come back.
And you came back.
And Jack Lanza.
Jack.
Yeah, Jack Lanza. So there were three guys that wanted us to come back. So, so we came back, and popped it. I mean, that place popped.
Sure did.
I mean, it popped, and I know exactly what happened. It popped. We were the NWO. A bunch of guys walked in there, and we were supposed to go over a lot of guys at WrestleMania. The day of WrestleMania, all of a sudden, all the finishes are changed. All the NWO guys are losing. Hulk's being split off away from us. And what basically happened, I thought, I can't prove this. It's a complete conspiracy theory, but I think a bunch of guys walked in and said, "Let me get this right. These motherfuckers almost put us out of business. And you're going to let these guys go over us who've sat here and battled these fuckers, not even looking at the fact that you now own that logo and it is a work, and,
yeah, it is a work.
And business is down because you just let Rock and Austin on the same day lose to Jericho."
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that was a smart move.
It certainly hasn't panned out that way.
No, I mean, I just think that was, for that company, that was nothing against Chris.
Yeah.
It's just that, all of a sudden, don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain.
Doing what's right and doing what's right for business.
Right. And they didn't do what was right. So next thing you know, Hogan's on SmackDown. They told Scott, when Scott came in, his contract was for 10 days a month. He worked 23 days the first month, and God forbid he went off the wagon. Well, fuck, he wasn't supposed to. The contract was set up, well, this is only going to be for this because it's going to WrestleMania. Anybody that's worked there knows that the next week it's going to be...
Oh, thank you, Kev.
Cut me, Mick. Anybody that worked there knows that every fucking month it's something else. Well,
yeah.
we're just we're gearing up for the THQ game. What the fuck? I mean, yeah, well, you're gonna work 30 days this month because fuck, I just bought a new Escalade. All right, Vince, whatever it takes. I mean,
Kevin, those salad days in WCW when look, you're rolling in the money, you've played your hand and it's paid off. You won the pot. You got the gold. The stories from the road. You got to give me some. I know there's one or two.
Let me think. I think the best one. I mean, just one of my favorite ones was we did a deal in spring break. They had that we did from Club La Vila, and Scott and I were on like double secret probation for drinking in the back of the buildings, and at that point, Bischoff, he said, no more drinking, but it was spring break, so they flew us in. I think we flew into Pensacola. That was the only place that had first class flights. We picked up a convertible and took off, and we probably drove about 5 minutes, and Scott said maybe we should get some beer, and I said, yeah, but let's just get a six-pack. And we agreed that maybe it'd be 16 ounces, and so we got 16 ounces. He said, yeah, but like a piece, right?
Sure.
Like six a piece, 16 ounces. By the time the traffic, we took 92, which is, I think it was 92, is that beach road that goes along the 98 through the Panhandle there, Florida. And I mean, we showed up at about 6:45, and it was one of those deals like we'd stopped and bought matching Hawaiian shirts, flip-flops. I mean, and we were hammered. And Bischoff's like we can see him coming beeline, and we've got those big cases of Bud Light that actually are 24s. We each have 2 of them, and we figure if we can get into Hogan's trailer and get a beer in his hand, he won't holler at Hogan, and we'll get immunity. So we go in there, and he runs in, and we lock the door. He's banging on it. We get Hogan and Savage to drink with us real quick. He opened the door, and now it's just like, "You gonna fight Terry?"
And
he didn't. So we went over, and I had to go do the news. I was supposed to do like the 6:30 weather or something like that, and I cursed like 5 times during it.
Now
so
wait a minute. On some like local
like Pensacola news, and like Scott's like making sexual innuendos to the weather lady, and he keeps going, "Are we on?" So then, instead of laying the match up, me and him go like in the club itself and drink until the show starts. Now we've got to walk through the people to get back to where the dressing. So we go back there, and Bischoff was furious. So we did this deal where the Giant was going to come down, and he was going to come and get us both. And we cut a promo. I said something about everybody needs to love the fat broads. And Scott, we were waiting, and finally Scott takes the microphone from me. He goes, "Hey Giant, that's your cue, you big dummy." So they cut the Giants music on. Here comes Paul, and he comes down, and he comes to grab me, and before he grabs me, I said, "Let me tell you something right now. I didn't know if you know this or not." I said, "But I was the 1995, jackknife champion, and I was on the top rope. I jumped in the pool. The pool's about 4 feet deep.
Yikes!
I mean, I hit the bottom of that pool like a bullet. I didn't sell it. Scott got thrown or choke slammed into things. Same thing. He hit the cement. We were so hammered it didn't matter. So we get back, and Bischoff's waiting for us. There's this huge scaffolding with a bunch of girls on top of it. They're watching the show. And he says to me, he goes, "You're drunk, and you're going to both be suspended for 1 month without pay." I said, "Eric, I'm not drunk." And somebody yells up to me, "Hey, Nash." I said, "What are you drinking?" She said, I think she had like a tequila sunrise or something. And she had it in like a solo cup. She's about 65, 70 feet above me. And I said, "Drop it." Bischoff's standing right here. She drops it. And I go, "Phoom," and catch it without spilling a thing. I take a sip, and I look at him, I said, "Doesn't look to me like I'm drunk." I walk away, and Bagwell goes, "That was like James Bond." I said, "I'm so hammered." But I mean, and they actually made Scott. They made Scott go to rehab. Forced him to go to rehab that next day. So we go to the bar that night, and Scott tells the.
Now wait a minute, not the night of his first day in rehab.
No, this is the night that we have this big powwow, and either Scott's gonna get fired or he's gonna go forced to rehab by the company.
Right.
So Scott says, "Well, I'm not going to give up $2 million. I'll do the 30 days." So Scott goes to the bar, and Eric says, "No more drinking." So Scott goes to the bar, and Sting's across from him at the bar, and he's talking shit to him, going, "Hey Sting, how am I doing?" He's already smarting up the bartender to give him Diet Cokes. So Scott's shooting these Diet Cokes, and Sting's shooting Jack. Sting doesn't drink.
No.
And he's like eight each, Finally, Bischoff walks over. He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It's Diet Coke." And you can just see Sting from across going, "Oh." Like even on their way to the tank, these guys are getting us.
Oh, boy.
That one, and the only thing I can say about Scott Hall is there's an old saying that goes that a friend will help you move, a good friend will help you move a body. Scott was a good friend.
Again, I'm not sure. We've talked about statutes and limitations, so let's not get into that. Now, that was the crest for WCW. You were on top in the then WWF. Stories from the road, Pam Anderson stories, maybe.
No, Pam. I saw her on Baywatch once. She looked like she was an attractive young lady. Right, honey? I don't know anything about her. No, she did some stuff with us, but I don't think anybody was on that. I would have known.